Good morning, everyone. It's good to have you here. Can you hear me well? Just testing the sound. All good. Great. I'm letting in a couple of more people that are on the waiting room. And let me share my screen.
Hey Bruce, good to see you.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
good to see
gave
you.
you a call yesterday. I left you a message.
Yeah, good to see
So
everybody.
maybe we can get in touch this week, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks for coming today to another of this workshop series. Today, we're gonna cover creating 3D assets with AI. The goal for today will be, but at the end of the workshop, everyone should see like the different tools and different options to create AI models with free and no code tools. You should become familiar with different workflows for generating 3D assets. We're gonna review some of the best practices for creating usable 3D models that can be used in XR applications. And we are going to be also able to view live and recorded demos from several different tools when creating 3D objects. The agenda, we are gonna quickly introduce ourselves, then we're gonna do an intro to the common methods and workflows, a live demo for text to 3D and image to 3D, strategies for leveraging AI chatbots, view 3D items in a spatial AO gallery. So we're gonna actually do a demo with the headset here, and you're gonna be able to compare how it looks in VR versus on a computer. Then, where we are headed, recorded demos, and the final thoughts. So, yeah, my name is Maria. I work for the XR Lab here at Bellevue College. I'm also working with the Northwest XR EDU network, and this is great to have again one of these workshops where we give you some tools that are easy to use, no cost, and can get you more familiar with XR technologies. And with us today, we have George.
Hello, hello everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Um, okay, yeah, it's okay. It's good.
Okay, just speak up. All right. Well, my name's George Rowe. I'm an instructional designer here at Bellevue College with e-learning. Been here about 6 years, and I also work part-time with the XR Lab. And I'd have to say that working with the XR Lab is one of the more fun things that I get to do. So pretty excited to share with you what I've been working on today for this workshop.
Cool. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah. Well, why don't I start?
Yeah.
I'll share my screen in a moment, so I'll just talk to you for a bit and then we'll jump right in. So yeah, super excited today to show you what I've been working on. We can just jump in and get started here in a second. Full disclaimer, when I agreed to do this workshop, I knew very little about creating 3D images. So this project was a great learning opportunity for me, and I have to say it was super fun. And now I'm kind of into it. I hope that I'll have more reason to work with these technologies in the future, and that's something I want to focus on a little bit today. Um,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think that's something very valuable, like just bringing that use case of someone that have never used these technologies before and how you can get familiar. And this is some of the things that we're trying to do here and show that anyone that doesn't need basically like a design background or anything like that can approach these tools and create content out of it. So yeah, I think that's very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than focusing on, two or three tools and one process or method to demo today, I wanted to step back and just try to get a more comprehensive view of where this technology is at right now, what can be done relatively easily, and again with, free or affordable, no code, and fast tools, and what those current methods and tools are that people are using and where it's all going as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. I will share my screen and just give me a moment to get the correct window up here. All right, so on the screen, you see a tool. Now, I realize that in the upper left-hand corner, it says Genie. This is Luma, and this is their tool, not to be confused with a new tool that just came out from Google's DeepMind that we're going to look at a little later. But that tool just came out like yesterday, and it's already creating a lot of disruption in kind of this world of generating 3D objects and 3D worlds. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, I want to talk about a couple of the most common methods or kind of workflows that people use. And on the screen here, you can see some different 3D objects that were made with this tool. And this tool is really simple, and that's what I love about it. One second. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. So Luma is actually a company that comes more from generating photogrammetry images. So similar to Polycam, if you went to the workshops before, you might know what is Polycam and how you can get one 3D digital object from a real world object. So Luma was doing that, and now they also released this tool that is fully AI.
Yeah, so we're going to look mostly at two methods today, and the first one is simply text to 3D. And that's what this tool does. You can see down below we have a place for our prompt, and you can see it's suggesting very simple prompts. I found that that's one of the better strategies for this tool. It has a certain look and feel. You can see that some of these objects kind of have a video game or kind of digital cartoon feel. So really fast tool, really fun. And we can generate something right now. So let's just give it a shot and kind of see how this works. One thing that's nice, and you could be opening these tools up. You could be playing around with them right now. This one's very easy to use. Notice that if I hover over some of these images or these objects, and then I click on it, it will actually show me the prompt. And you can see these are really simple prompts, right? We're not going out of our way to create a detailed prompt, and we're getting something that looks pretty nice. So let's try one of our own. Oop. Sorry, let's get back there. Okay. Sorry, guys. Nerves here and clicking on the wrong things. How do I get back to this Genie right here? Text. This is what we're doing.
But you're in machine.
Text to 3. Oh, sorry. We're going to look at that one as well. That one should go.
Well, let me find.
Yeah, I don't know how to get back to it now.
Maybe just Luma Genie. The first one, Genie and capture assets.
Oh boy.
Yeah, just 1 second. We're trying to find the link, and this might help you because you might be wondering like how I want to try this tool, how I'm gonna enter to the portal. So maybe can you share that on the chat? Is that the one?
Just gonna see if I can get back.
Sharing food and meals together.
No, it just wants to. Oh, wow. Why don't maybe what we could do?
I will oh yeah, this meshing. Yeah, okay. Just do you want to show one while I look for the link?
Yeah,
A different
look for the
one?
link. So I'm gonna move on to Meshy, and I'll come back to Luma Genie in a moment. I've already got some items loaded up here. This is actually, I mean, you can see right away by looking at this is already a more sophisticated tool than the Genie tool that we saw a sneak peek of. So this creation here, my daughter actually wanted to make this. She had seen some other mushroom houses, and so we made a mushroom house. This tool is quite limited what you can do for free, but you can see up here on the right, I have some credits. I have about 70 left, so we'll be able to generate something with this today. And you can generate these geometry artifacts, so where it has no texture and no color. And then you can do different things with that. You can texture it here, and it will create something that looks like this. And you can see again with this tool, there's just so much you can do. We wouldn't have time to go into all that, but just to show you, there are things you can do here where you can change the lighting. You can rotate the lighting source. So just a lot of different things you can do to create these artifacts or these 3D objects. However, notice that even when I created this geometry piece, when I come down here to download it, I am not allowed to download it, right? I need the pro version. So there are a lot of weird workarounds. There's a lot of different ways to combine these tools. Later, when we get into a virtual space, you'll see this object created. And what I did, and I don't know where the ethics stand on this, but I took a screenshot of this, and then I took that image into a program where you can generate 3D objects from images. And it actually recreated this very well because this is a 3D object. It is done in a style that, these tools and apps recognize its shape and its form. You can see it doesn't have harsh shadows. It's rather simple in a way, and it came out pretty nice. So we'll look at that as well a bit later. I want to just click on a couple other objects, and I want you to pay attention to a couple things. For example, the detail here and the way the face actually looks pretty natural. I've had a hard time rendering faces to look right in some of the other tools. So this is quite a nice tool. I'd love to use it. I'm just not really ready to pay for it. As I rotate this little camper, you can see it's even got detail on the bottom and on all sides and on top. So this is pretty sophisticated compared to the Luma tool. Have we found a link yet?
No, I think this is very interesting. Like I have the link that I shared with you, but it's not working anymore. I think it's just going back to let me share it on the chat.
That is so.
It's just going like and I think this is an example and probably something that you wanted to mention is like how fast these tools changing. These tools are changing. And I think this happened to me in the past when I'm like working with a tool and out of nowhere the company switch their focus into a different direction and they try to focus more like in the video generation and now like the platform doesn't work anymore.
I'm really bummed because
Yeah.
it's such a cool tool, and there were a few things I wanted to show you over there, but I guess if it's
I will try. Oh, is that or maybe there is like
gone.
a problem with like their thing, like in the back end of things, like maybe the server is not working. But I will keep doing research for sure. That link is the one that we use it,
Okay,
but it's not working.
yeah, we'll try to come back to that. No
Yeah.
worries. The good news is I created a lot of objects with that tool, so you will see kind of the output of that tool. So that's not too bad. Okay, well, let's try something. I have some credits here, so let's go back up here and I think I'm just gonna try to refresh. Okay. So notice that here I can do image to 3D. So you can upload an image and it'll try to read that image, create a 3D object. And we can also do text. So I would like someone to throw out just any idea. And if you don't have one, I have one. But if someone can, unmute or throw something in the chat and just give me a simple idea, just a one-word object or something you'd like to see rendered right now. Anyone have any ideas?
How about an apple?
An apple. Okay. So what I might do now, and just to show you part of this kind of process, I could just do my prompt, right? And no problem. And we'd probably get something quite good here. But a lot of times what I do is I will come over to, say, Grok, which I find does quite well. And you can see there's some work here that I've been doing. And it will create some prompts for me. So I might want to say, let's start a new chat. I would like some help with a prompt to create an image, a 3D image, and I might even tell it which tool I'm using Meshy. I want to create a red apple. And do you want this to be kind of cartoony or realistic, Ron?
Be saying one
I
second.
was thinking more realistic,
Okay.
but then maybe we could modify it.
Okay, so
So
I might just throw in a couple words like professional, photorealistic. And just let Grok do the work here, although you do have to describe it a bit. And one thing I've found, this has been the big value of tools like ChatGPT and Grok, is actually asking them for help at every step of this process. The biggest help is really writing these prompts that you can then go put into these generators. It just really helps. And it also teaches you how to write prompts, because then you see this kind of prompt style and the type of descriptive words that it uses, things like vibrant, glossy red skin with subtle variations in color. And it really does a great job. And sometimes you can even tell it which tool you're targeting, and it will tailor the prompt for that tool. It doesn't always quite get that right. For example, when we were looking at that first tool, they were very simple prompts. You don't need really complicated prompts over there. But I think for Meshi, because it does involve so many different kind of parameters, as we saw, and the way you can manipulate these, I think a detailed prompt is going to work well. So I'm going to put that there, and it's going to cost me 20. So I'm going to go ahead and generate. And now that's going to generate there. While that's working, let's just move over to another tool that is very similar. And I've had some really good luck with this tool, and I still have some credits. So this is called Tripo. And, it's pretty easy to understand. You can put in your prompt here, generate a model, and you get some credits when you sign up for their free account. We can scroll down here and just see some of the items, and also quite good. Similar to Meshi, I have a feeling Meshi might be a little better. Notice when I hover over these, I can see the geometry version. And that's just kind of cool to see. You're going to see more of those when we enter like a VR space. I quite liked this one, so I'll just click on it so that we can look at it up close. And again, you get this object in here, or you render an object, and you have different styles you can add. Let's see what happens here if it does this. I haven't used this. Yeah, so see how it just changed that to like a kind of more cartoon digital style. What solid view? I don't know what that is actually. I wonder if you can turn cartoon off. Okay, you get the picture, right? We could do one more. Let's look at this key and maybe sketch. Oh, nice, very nice. So you can see much more sophisticated than Luma, which we never got to really see. But you certainly can't do any of this kind of editing in there. It's just kind of a one and done, and then you can make it high resolution, and then you get your result, and you will see those results a bit later. Let's see where our apple's at. Okay, so notice that we made an apple, but we didn't get some of the stuff that we described. And that's because in this tool, you create this kind of geometric one, and then you texture it. So let's do that. Another 10 tokens. Notice we're down to 40. Okay, while that's doing that, I'm going to start moving through some of these other tools. This is a tool called Supervoxel. You can see on the screen, we have another one of these like geometry objects, and you probably notice his hand is not quite right. Things look a little kind of muddy and flat. That's because this, if you look over on the left, this was image to 3D. This is where you give it a single image, and then it creates this object, and you can actually see the image I used up in the top right-hand corner. And that's an image that I generated with, actually it's a found image, but it was generated with Grok Imagine. This tool is even more limited than the other two we just looked at in terms of what you can do for free. Notice I only have 2 credits. This tool only lets you use geometry. And this kind of output that we're seeing, that's okay, but not great, not nearly as detailed as the ones we've seen via prompt. You'll see some of these in the virtual space, but there is a technique that I found. I'm not allowed to do the full model. I don't have enough credits anyway, right? There's very little I can do here. But when I created this mushroom house, as I explained earlier, I was able to take that into one of these image to 3D model programs, do a screenshot, and then create an image. So
We got the apple.
we got the apple. That looks quite good.
Pretty good,
That skin
yeah.
is not bad at all. I like that. Compared to a lot of stuff I've seen. You're also going to see today a lot of poor examples because when I started, I wasn't very good at this and I was using, only free tools. And I have a room in spatial of just kind of garbage. So we'll look at that. Okay, let's move on a bit. I'll come back here for just a second. I think this program only does image to 3D as far as I can tell. Notice we don't see any other kind of workflows over there. So I didn't find this to be that useful yet. One more tool I'm going to show you just for a moment. This is Skybox. Now, this is not generating 3D objects. These are more like 360 scenes. But I think it's interesting to show this because it kind of pales in comparison to what just came out yesterday, which is Google's DeepMind Genie 3. And it actually, we're talking about text to image or text to 3D or image to 3D. And this new tool that just came out is literally text to world. You can give it a prompt and it will create a 3D infinite world that you can explore and interact with. And when I say interact, you can walk up to cars and open doors. You can climb things. You can actually tell it to create a video game and it will create something very close to what we see in modern video gaming. No, it's not totally there yet, but it is like shockingly good. And so what's interesting is tools like this seem kind of neat. They're cool. And you can create these 360 worlds. But it's almost obsolete in a way already based on what I've seen that's coming out. Notice too, and I'll point this out in several of these tools. I mean, okay, so we had the Luma tool just disappear from us. The Genie, I have no idea what that's about. It might even be the name Genie, right? This other huge tool just came out called Genie. And these tools are highly in development. A lot of things you're going to see today are either in beta or they're only available via like a GitHub repository. And you have to know how to load those onto your device and run code. And, it can be a little advanced. But notice here, there is a little 3D button. But when I hover over it, it's like upgrade to standard for experimental access. So you can see that they were going towards that idea of like now rendering like a three-dimensional world that is, when they're saying 3D, right, now that means that the file is going to be different and it can now be taken into other spaces as a three-dimensional, world or object. And it's just not quite there yet, right? Like basically Genie 3 beat them to the punch, it looks like. But the way I use this tool in this kind of 3D asset exploration project is, for one, you can find something in the image, right? So this like house is pretty neat. And I can screenshot some of this stuff and then I can use the image to 3D generators. It also is a place where you can come and get ideas for prompts. So I'd also maybe take this prompt and then take it to like Grok Imagine. Let's just see what would happen. You can then take it to another image generator and see what you get. And it'll be widely different. It's also a great way. I like taking the same prompt and giving it to several tools to get a sense for the style that those tools, interpret images in, especially if you're just sort of giving them an object and you're not really telling them the style or how to draw it. And so you get these other images, right? So it's just a way to kind of ideate and get other ideas to then create an object that maybe I can explore with like image to 3D.
If you have 1 second, George, I
Mhm.
can, because I was gone for the first 20 minutes, like really trying to find the link for Luma, and I think it's just not there. I think they just switch. You say you can still do it in Discord, so I joined the Discord server, but like the models are not there anymore. I feel they are just like changing the way they are working. But I think if we have a little bit of time, I can quickly show one more tool that is called World Labs, and it's also just a very quick showcase. If I can share my screen, I'm gonna have the link here because this connects to what George is saying about how, yes, you can create 360s and then how you can go one more step and create a 3D space. So basically, this works also with prompts where you can just have a prompt and then you can create a 3D space. This is not as close as the new Google tool because once you start going deeper into the world kind of disappears. You see how it gets like all blurry, but it still gives you some freedom, like a little bit more freedom than a 360 image. When you are on a 360 image, you're stuck in one place. But this tool lets you navigate around it, and it's also free. At least you have some credits to try. So, yeah, I just wanted to give a quick overview. You have here some examples, and as usual, I feel like something that is always consistent in these tools where you generate from prompts is that you usually have access to the prompt, and then you will see it's a very complex prompt with some instructions, and then you can be inside of a completely digital AI generated world. Like this one, I think I can see myself on a video game like a treasure hunt and creating some hotspots, making it more interactive. Like you can actually ask people to navigate and move around. So this is where all of this is going. Right now, we're gonna be focused more on one single 3D objects, but just for you to know that the option to create full 3D worlds and environments is also out there.
And can you bring in like a GLB file into that world and put a chest or put the object?
You could, but this is what it gets tricky, and we're gonna be talking about the different formats. This is Gaussian splattings and it's PLY files. So some tools, and maybe this is something we talk later in the presentation where we talk about different formats and how some are more compatible than other ones. But yeah, this is a technology that is evolving. So Gaussian splattings is very new. It has PLY format, so it's not so compatible with some tools. But for example, you can bring that in Blender, and you can have your GLB files. Like for example, that house that you created will be a cool addition to the environment that we just saw, and you can like start creating your own virtual worlds with the combination of AI environments and AI 3D objects.
Great. Okay, so we have mostly been looking at, we lost our Luma, but we looked at Meshi, we looked at Tripo, we looked at Supavoxel, and we looked at Skybox. And all of these are using this text to 3D kind of process. So an example workflow would be you write a text prompt right in the tool, you generate an image or some images, right? You might decide to generate 3 or 4 and pick the best one. Some of these tools will generate 4 or some number for you. So Luma would generate 4. You choose your image. This is important. I want to stop for a moment and talk about, some tips for getting good assets. And one is this kind of garbage in, garbage out idea that you really, at each step of the way, you want to choose the best object or make sure that, you work your prompt in a chatbot first and get it right, then choose the best image, then take it and, enhance it or texturize it, or, that some of them will just have like a high resolution button and it just sort of does another go at it and it improves it. And I've just found that if you really take the time to make sure you're choosing the best choice at each stage, your end product ends up being a lot better. So that workflow is write the prompt, generate the image, choose the correct one, export to most commonly a GLB file or a PLY file. I've seen GLB as sometimes the only choice and the most common for some of these kind of more
Web
3D web, video game objects. And then upload that to some kind of XR application like Spatial or ThingLink. Okay, so the next thing then we're going to look at now is the image to 3D kind of method. So I'm now going to go to a tool called, this is from Meta, by the way, and this is SAM 3D. And you can see I had an image that I put in here of this vase, and then it rendered it here. It did a good job. simple objects like this work pretty well. When it has kind of smooth surfaces, it's symmetrical. There's not a lot of intricacy or detail, except for maybe in the pattern and stuff on it. These tend to do pretty well with this method, excuse me. So let me just show you how this works. So when you come to the playground or the main page here, you have these different options. The two 3D options are here. You will see some bodies. I wasn't going to include much about this, but my daughter helped me with some of this stuff and she got really into this. So we have a bunch of 3D bodies in our spatial space. But just to show you the workings of this, I'm going to select this middle one. It's a really simple layout. We can only upload one image, right? So it's not like Polycam or some of these more sophisticated tools where you can bring in multiple images and then put them together. Maybe you have images of different angles and put them together and it'll make a better 3D object for you. But this is really useful because you can extract objects from images. So let's go to some of my images, and I have a lot because I was playing around with a lot of stuff.
I just want to add a quick note on like this tool is done by Meta, right? And sometimes it's good to understand what are the users or how that do they see this applied to day-to-day life examples. And when I show the first demo that they did about segment anything was for Facebook Marketplace. So one of the examples that I usually give when I talk about augmented reality is the IKEA app where you can, if you're buying for a couch and looking for a couch for your house, you can go to the IKEA website and then you can click the augmented reality option, scan your living room and see how the couch will look in your living room, right? So right now they're trying to implement this with Marketplace. So imagine you are just looking for a couch in Marketplace, but then on Facebook Marketplace you see a couch and you only see one picture of the couch. But then what they are trying to do with segment everything is that they take the picture that the user take in another neighborhood in Seattle, just a picture that they took with their cell phone. They segment the couch from there, and you can do still the same thing that you are doing with IKEA, with new furnish, but just with anything that anyone uploads to Facebook Marketplace, and then you can see your couch that is a new used couch on your living room. So it's pretty amazing. I feel like the direction where this is going, and all the other examples that can come out from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. This is a found image, so this is a gargoyle. Again, I chose this because I know it'll work. It has these kind of smooth surfaces. It's kind of a fantasy creature, right? If I had a human, then it wouldn't quite look right to us. It'd have some of that AI slop, but this one usually works pretty well. And what's neat is you can bring in any image. So from Unsplash, you could generate your own image. You could bring in your own photograph. It's possible you could even bring in a drawing here, but this is not really meant for like sketches and stuff. There are other tools that do like sketch to 3D. But what you do, you come to this screen and you just click on the image or the object that you want, and then it tries to find it. And in this case, it found the whole thing. Now, hopefully I'll get another chance to show you this. If it only like highlighted part of him, then you would just click on the other parts, and eventually it figures out that you're trying to grab that object, and it does a pretty good job of finding all those lines. And then it's as simple as generate 3D. And this happens pretty quickly, which also is an indication that, this is rather simplistic in a way compared to some of the tools we looked at.
Is this one completely free? You don't need credits or
I have
anything?
been just using this nonstop. It's never shut down on me. Right now it's free.
For now, yeah.
Yeah. And you get this little viewer, you can rotate it. And then if I go to download up here, I have two file types that I can use, this GLB and PLY. I'm not going to download it because I have this one. Maybe we'll look at one more. There are some effects. I don't want to waste time on these. I have a lot of disappointments with this tool. The things I like about it quickly, it's simple, it's fast, and you can extract things from images. It's quite fun to go through like your old photographs and look for things that you might want to try to render as a way to play around with this. But they have all these like kind of ridiculous effects. And I don't know why these are here. They're not very good. This is called hand drawn. they're quite limited. They have these kind of, what, 7 backgrounds or 8 backgrounds. I noticed they're not even showing up there. These kind of dumb filters. I don't really know what this is all about. So we're not going to spend time with this, but it will create like a little video for you, and it just rotates around in the middle. And that's just a way to share your objects with people. But the most value I've found is just getting these objects out of here and then taking them somewhere else. We can do one more. Let's do like this. Oh, that's a web. Okay. Little trick. If you download a file from the internet and it's a WebP file, let me show you this quickly. Hopefully I don't close a window doing this. But one trick that I use is I just go to the image name, and a lot of times you can just change this to PNG and it'll give you the warning. You're like, no, I do want to do that. I do want to change it to a different file type. And 9 out of 10 or even more often than that, it will
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, just when I learned that, I was very surprised it will
I
just
know.
work like that,
I
but
know.
it's cool.
But so yeah,
Bruce have one question, so
yeah.
maybe Bruce,
Yeah, I just have a quick question, George. Have you taken those Atomos images and then moved them into a program and one of the other programs for surface mapping? Because the surface mapping looked kind of wonky. That was one question. Also, when you save as apply, which would be a Gaussian splat, where do you view that?
Yeah, I so PLY files are not as supported in many platforms. You can upload them to Zigbee. Zigbee allows you to have PLY files. I don't know about like you cannot do it on spatial I/O, but you also have the option to do GLB. And yeah, yours actually create a full spatial I/O gallery that we are going to visit later with a lot of these examples so you can see how they actually will look like on a virtual environment.
Okay,
And
thanks.
then your first question, I mean, I don't know about the surface mapping, but definitely some of these other programs like Meshi, there is an image input. So we could try this and see what we get, and we can try that same image. Now, here it's interesting. You don't actually try to isolate the car or select it. I think it sort of just magically tries to figure out what you want in 3D. So some images might not work well if it can't really figure out what the object is. But let's just see if this will do anything. Now, this always confuses me because now it's on texture. So 1 second, I'm just gonna refresh. Is the only way I know to get this back to kind of empty slate. And then how many credits? So this is now using Meshi image to 3D, right? Same car that we made over here. We're waiting for this video. This is like just a little way to display this. So we'll be able to compare these two. And then let's go ahead. Now, standard, we'll see if we get enough credits to actually color it.
Mhm.
And then of course we might have to come back to this because it does take a while. So that is rendering there. Let's come back over here. This should
Almost
pop
there.
up here. Okay, it makes this little video not that cool, but this car came out okay. It's a little object. It worked. I think this tool is fun. You will see these objects in spatial. One thing I want you to notice in there is the SAM 3D. It's another disappointment with this tool. The SAM 3D objects are much brighter here, but when you put them in spatial, they're so dark. It's like they're in a shadow or something, and it's very strange. And you can easily see the difference between the Luma objects and the SAM 3D objects because they're brighter and you can see more detail. And I'm not sure what causes that. But the tip there is when you're creating images in here is use brightly colored images, and then they look a little better in the 3D spaces that I've put them into. All right, let's come out of this one now. So this, we're going to wait a bit for those other ones to render. We'll look at that in a moment. But this image to 3D, I had mixed success with this. I think that when you're using a single image, there's always going to be, something that's not quite there in terms of accuracy or just how good it looks. even Bruce, you noticed kind of a bit wonky shape to that. And I haven't had tons of success with single image, but I know that many of you are familiar with like how Polycam works if you give it multiple images. And in fact, when you talk to some of the chatbots, they recommend this too. It's like, okay, try to get, 4 images, like a front facing image, a 3/4 image, a profile image, maybe back, even top. And then you can load those into more sophisticated programs and get a much better object. But in terms of free, quick, and easy, this is really fun. And it does take some more experimenting. I mean, here's an example of one that I thought came out really good. But a lot of these kind of cartoony, it's a frog, so it's usually going to look like a frog, whereas a human's much more difficult, right? So okay. Anything else to show there? No. And we're on a little slower connection than I'm used to. I notice things are kind of not loading as fast, but that's all right. Okay, so an example workflow for this image to 3D. I think with image to 3D, you almost always want to be, well, you need a good image. And so if you don't have a good image as a found image, again, I mentioned Unsplash, right? That's a good place to maybe look for objects, photo, something that's in a photo, is just generated with AI. So use Dolly or, Midjourney or Grok Imagine. Get help with your prompt. Tell it what kind of image you want. Let it know that you're creating a 3D image with it. And it will usually suggest that like 3/4 view so that you're getting some of the front, some of the side, and it can extrapolate like what the rest of that shape is. So use the AI to help you with your prompting. Then generate your 2-dimensional image in, like I said, Dall-E or Midjourney. Then upload that image to one of these software packages that does the image to 3D. So that's Meshi, Tripo, Polycam, Sam 3D. Luma never did that. Luma was always only text, and maybe that tool's gone forever. Then again, export to your target file type, and then upload it to your XR application, and then display it like I did in a virtual gallery, something like that. Okay, so let me, I clicked over here. This is Polycam. Polycam also allows you to generate from a single image, but you can see that the quality is just not very good. And maybe I need to get better at the images I feed it. These were both found images on the internet. But if you come over here on the left, once you're in kind of its dashboard, and I go to create, there's this AI capture, and it's create a 3D model from a single photo. But you can see I tried to do this like geodesic kind of dome house, and it's just a bit wonky. It kind of did it. And this was really rough. You can see the foot there, and this is in the gallery on a painting on the wall in front of another render from Sam 3D that actually did a better job. And so I tried to kind of put the two together so people can see like where these were generated from. So I think this would do a lot better, obviously, if you fed it multiple images, which is really how this how this gets used a lot. So for example, down here, notice if I say upload.
You can upload up to 150 images.
Yeah. So
of just one object.
Right. And you can see if I were to load an image in here, notice it wants 19 more before it's ready, right? That's what that's saying. So
Yeah.
it wants several images of the object before it's ready to create that. So, all right. So let's now, let's go look at our stuff. We had some stuff that it was working on. Okay, so there's our car. And, it's a lot better. I mean, you can see readily that is better. The wheels are round. I don't know if it saved the one I did, but it was kind of chunky. It kind of looked like clay right before. Look at that.
Yeah.
It didn't have any information about what's underneath. Now, obviously, some of it's just kind of, solid or flat, but it got the drivetrain in there. That's interesting. Got one axle. Very cool. Okay, do I have enough to texturize this? Ooh, I do.
Yeah.
So let's get that one going. Okay. So while we're waiting for that, I want to talk a little bit more. I've already talked about it a bit, so we don't have to spend a ton of time, but just really emphasizing this idea of leveraging AI as kind of your co-intelligence throughout this process. I just found it really helpful. I mean, you can literally just ask it how, and you can see here, right? I'm just like, hey, I need help making prompts for 3D objects. I called it Luna, it's Luma. And what I really like about using these tools is sometimes I would ask for something specific, like a prompt, but because I would use these little intros like, hey, I'm doing this, I need some help, it would just start giving me suggestions even beyond what I had asked for. And it would be really useful stuff. In this case, I had asked for this, but it gave me some ideas of, what might work as educational objects where non-technical accuracy is required. And so it made some suggestions here for historical, cultural, science concepts. But it just, it gave me a basket of ideas and things to start trying. Then it gave me some example prompts. I love that, right? You can just copy paste some of these to kind of get, your creative juices flowing and get something you can look at and work with on the screen. And then stuff like this is great, right? Tips for better results. So specifying materials and textures, mention lighting preferences, and so on. I'll show you another example of that. Imagine you're coming to this with no knowledge, like I did. Oh, where's my, okay. I really liked using Grok, by the way. It would give you several prompts in these little boxes that you could then take. And again, it gives you these quick tips. These are apparently specifically for Meshi. That was great. Let's see if I have one. Yeah. This one was really good. So this was like early on. And I actually asked it, I said, I would like to create some images that will later be used in a different program to use as source images to then create and render 3D images. What are some parameters and prompt techniques you can suggest for creating images that will be useful for this purpose? And I give it an example. And sure enough, it just gives me all this really useful information about, using a plain uniform background, the lighting. And the interesting thing is, later as I got more familiar with these tools, especially the more sophisticated ones like Meshi, all these are in there as parameters that you can adjust with sliders, right? They actually exist as, and so it started to build a framework for me of like, okay, what is needed to really create a good image? And then this whole section on prompt techniques. So I talked about this before, making sure you can isolate your object from the background, emphasizing multiple views, making sure you're not using, you want more diffused, even lighting, and so on, right? Words for boosting detail. Just like it teaches you. So it's like, it's not just doing it for you, it's doing it for you, but I've learned faster than I usually learn just by doing it, seeing what it does, trying again, right? Lots of trial and error.
I think we have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce?
George, would this be possible to share this? I know there's a share up in the upper right-hand corner.
Share this chat.
Yeah, that chat.
Yeah.
Because I think that's great stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Let me do it this way. So I'm going to put it in the chat. There's that link.
Thank you. Oh, excellent.
And just one more thing I'll show you here, and then we're going to go on to spatial and look at some of this stuff. But one of the is it here? Sorry.
Yeah, this is good. I have access to the chat and I'm able to see all the different tips. It's nice.
Shoot, it's so hard to find stuff after. Okay, maybe I won't find this. I wanted to show, I had an example of a prompt that it did very well. One thing I've noticed with Grok is if you start adding new things to a chat that are unrelated, for some reason it loses like your old info, which is really annoying, right? I have stuff that I want saved, but no worries. I had made this genie earlier because of this genie confusion. So I think that what we'll do, I wanted to show you a prompt that was really technical, and I can show you the image. I unfortunately can't seem to find the prompt itself, but it did a really great job. This was, I believe, this was ChatGPT, and it created a almost perfect replica of a Technics 1200. I'm very familiar with this turntable as a teenager. I DJ bedroom parties and stuff in college, or house parties, and it did a great job, but only because I used AI to give me a prompt and I told it that I wanted a very accurate photorealistic product photography style image of. And I told it exactly the model, right? I wanted Technics SL 1200 MK2, which I can actually even read that right here. Like it's doing much better than in the past with wording. So pretty neat. I can see some mistakes. I do see some slop like in this area. It looks like it has two knobs. There should only be one, etc. But otherwise, it did a really good job.
Were you able to take that into a 3D model?
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's pretty intricate for the 3D modeling that I have access to. I think it would work well in like, Meshy and some of those, but I didn't use those because I wanted to leave some of the credits for us. So, oh, here we go.
No.
This is the prompt I
Under,
wanted to show
yeah.
you. So this prompt here is what I'm in ChatGPT. Grok helped me with this prompt. It created this prompt, and you can see how specific it is. Red target light near tone arm base, pitch slider with plus minus 8% range on right side, button and 33, 45 RPM speed selector buttons. I mean, it really got detailed, and it did a really good job. So pretty neat. And, ChatGPT is DALL-E. It does great. Here's my favorite drink. So here's a whiskey glass with an ice cube. It handled transparency really well. However, when I took that into SAM, it was a joke, right? Like trying to render that.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
And then, but just to see the difference between something that's, very kind of like photorealistic and then, this fun cartoon stuff. So pretty neat. Okay, so let's do the spatial
Yeah, for
thing, and
sure.
let's go look at some of these objects in a gallery that I built, and I'll kind of. So what we're gonna do, Maria is gonna go into the space in the headset, and she's gonna walk around, and I should open up the casting, right?
Yeah, you have it on an incognito window. So
That's right.
you should be able.
That is this one. So we're going to cast to the shared screen. So you'll be seeing Maria's view. I'm going to kind of tell her to walk around, and we're just going to stop at various places, and I'll kind of tell her like, oh, like zoom in on the ghetto blasters. I know we're not supposed to call them that anymore. I don't know what else to call them. Handheld old school radios, tape players, breakdance machines. I don't know, but I'll tell her to, zoom in on something or frame something, and then I'll kind of talk about what we're looking at.
Okay, so I'm casting now. You should be able to see my screen. And you can go full screen if you want, if you scroll down a little bit. There to the right.
Oh, I see. Once you hover.
Cool.
Okay.
So where's Speedy?
So by the way, we're still totally for free here. I am not using the school's account for spatial. This was just me logging in, setting up a free account, and then luckily they allow you to upload tons and tons of megabytes of stuff. So I was able to just try to fill up this huge gallery space with stuff. So you can see stuff's loading here, like rock formation and ship. And so we've got this kind of gallery, and it'll take a few minutes for everything to load. And you might see some stuff that looks familiar. As we approach objects, I'll tell you which tool I used and just talk to you a bit about the process. We also have some things where I've rendered the same object in two different tools, or use the same prompt, and we can look at like the variations we get. So why don't we first, we could just go over to like the Tutankhamun statue here that's in the right view there.
Sure.
And this was made with that Luma tool. And you can see there's definitely some slop around the sides, and it has some trouble, but in general, I was really happy with like how recognizable it is for what it is. And this was kind of early days of stuff that I was rendering. And then go ahead and maybe back up a little bit from that if you can. And it's on a marble pedestal that comes with spatial. So it has some objects that you can put in here. I didn't like a lot of them. So at some point I started using these tools to render my own, and I'll show you those when we see them. So yeah, let's go over to the mushroom house. So for example, here, if you look at this pedestal that 3D object is on, I built that with Luma, and that came out great. And then we put this object on top of it. That was made with SAM 3D. That's the one where you select the image and but look how good it did here, because, well, it's a 3D object that's kind of already set up, with all those parameters correctly. And it's this geometry version. And so that image is the screenshot that I took into SAM 3D and then created this. And then down on the floor, that is simply the Luma version of the same prompt. And that little mushroom house my daughter made. But we just used the same prompt. But she was like, no, we're gonna go to that tool and put it in. And she chose the image of 4. If you just look to the left, you can see these 4 images on the gecko. Those are the 4 images that Luma would give you. And then you choose the best one. He's not there, by the way. I went back to make that image, but and then you have another step where you make it high res. You can see how those are more flat, and then you get more texture and you get a little bit better product from the initial output. So that's that idea that really, garbage in, garbage out, like make sure, good prompt, select a good image, and then take it to the relevant program.
What's happening in the roof over there?
Yeah, so those are the 3D bodies that Sam 3D made. And these are pretty neat because they do have, I believe these have like an interior architecture, and there's ways, I think you can take them elsewhere and like do some, I think there's a way to like
they have a rig.
animate them. Yeah, they have like a rig so they can be animated. So there's like a skateboarder, this is all my daughter. She got really excited about that. So she built all those. We got a mountain climber there on the wall.
It's cool.
Notice back there, I did put the text to world. That's new because the Genie 3 came out, and I was like, what's that? What's that captain looking at over there? He seems to be looking out the window or something.
Oh, George, can we share this? It will be nice because if we share this link with people,
Yeah.
I think
people can come in here, look around.
that will
Also,
be
George, Todd Conaway is setting up kind of like a network of worlds that faculty have built. I don't know the details of that. Ron, you might know, but this would be a great addition to his project that he's working on. It's so, I also love the fact
Yeah.
that your daughter did so much of the work here. What a cool thing.
Yeah. I had to teach her how to use some of the tools, and then she got right into it. So I'm going to put this link in the chat if people want to join the spatial, and you can do it on a laptop or with a device. So that link is now in the chat. And then let me get back to this full screen for folks that want to follow along with us. Let's go over to, let's look at the Optimus robot here. So this Optimus guy, or where we could look at those. I hope people recognize those. Those are Daft Punk helmets. I spent hours working on those, and they're really hard. I don't know why, but that's kind of a pet project. But if we just look at this Optimus robot for a moment, this is finally when I started using like Meshy and Trippo. These are all, well, the puffer, the orange puffer jacket, and the robot are Trippo. And it did a great job. And what's cool in spatial is you can actually combine these elements by the way you move them, right? They flow into each other, and you can actually like put clothes on a model, right? I put a crown on him. If you look at the crown, that was created with Luma.
The vest is pretty impressive. Like I'm on VR and it looks like a real vest. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Trippo does a great job. If you compare it to SAM 3D, it's so much better. And
I see someone there.
Yeah, cool. Someone's here. So if you look at those Daft Punk helmets, you see how dark they are? Those are SAM 3D. They're just the objects themselves are very dark, and I'm not sure what's up with that. But can we go to let's go look out the windows.
What about these stands? Did you create these stands?
No, those are the ones that come with spatial.
I see.
There are a couple of cars. Do you see that whale out there?
Yeah, I like the whale.
So this is kind of cool in spatial. If you look at the cars, look at the orange car's hood. That's the object right there, smaller. That's the whale. But you can actually move things out of your space, and you can rotate everything. And I basically made it bigger, and I rotated it so that the tail would be sticking up. But what's tricky here is once you move it out the window and you deselect it, you can't modify it anymore because it's like you can't reach it because the glass is in the way. You can actually in spatial go to each object, so there is a way for me to go back to it, but you can't continue editing it from this sort of standing position. You have to go into this like editor. Let's just go the opposite direction. Let's go to the other window. Yep, she's headed there. And I created some objects out here. So I made that arch. That's also, these are both Luma. I'm really bummed this tool is gone because I think it makes some pretty neat little objects for spaces like this. They're kind of low
I
poly.
like the arch over there.
Yeah,
It's cool.
it's pretty neat. And I told it, like I forget the prompt exactly, but it was like rock formation with arch and moss or something like that, right? Ocean rock or something. So pretty neat. All right, let's just walk back in the center and I'll direct you to a couple more items and people can ask questions too. Oh, let's look at the radios. Let's call them radios. The radios from the 80s. Yeah, if you stand in front of them and then kind of stand back. So these are three different tools. So the one on the far left, that comes with spatial. So these are just 3D objects that it gives you to kind of play around with, right? So, and to be fair, yeah, that's probably the least dynamic one, right? The one in the middle was created first. I created the 2D image. So this is image to 3D process, and I created the 2D image with Grok Imagine, and I told it to make it. I think I said something funny like make the dopest ever old school ghetto blaster from the 80s. And it did that. It put the graffiti on it, like it understood the weird lingo, right? I was kind of testing it out. And then the far right, that's Luma, and then made high res. So it just kind of gives you an idea of like, the different styles of these tools.
Yeah, this one will have like the buttons more defined. This
Yeah,
one just
kind of
gets a
sloppy,
little,
right?
yeah.
So then it says, hey, maybe SAM 3D is pretty good, right? Like if you generate a really good image, a sharp image, SAM 3D makes some cool stuff. But also notice that the SAM 3D one, the one in the middle, it's also like the darkest one. The stuff comes out really dark in here and there's no way to brighten it. I noticed that like in Meshy, you can brighten things up. So maybe if I were doing a screenshot from there, right, I might go there, brighten that up, then take a screenshot, then take the image into SAM 3D. A lot of the work I was doing was like trying to really coax something good out of these tools by kind of, combining them and getting them to augment and help each other and just experimenting. And I found that stuff to be really fun. Can we don't go to that back room. That back room back there is like all the failures. Can we turn around and oh yeah, these little gargoyles are cool, but we can just walk back there for a moment. And then I think we're almost done. We'll go back there, then we'll go to the failure room and I think we'll be good, but get in where he's standing. Yeah. So you saw this in the program, this cowboy on horseback. That's the image, right, that I rendered it from. And then there he is with his 3 fingers, right? And then if you rotate around in this room, that's the image that's used. There's the 3D frog contemplating his 2D self in the image there. And then actually these images on the right are kind of interesting. I went another direction, kind of over where these like MC Escher looking things are. Like let's look at some of these. I was just curious, like, one thing that these tools don't do very well, if we look at that image for a moment, I was like, I wonder if it can render, I wonder if Grok Imagine or ChatGPT can render like, a 3D illusion. It can't really. It's just funny. Like it can make 3D objects, but it can't do what MC Escher can do.
Yeah.
If you turn around though, there's one, it gets like the simple ones, not that one, but yeah, see the triangle? It did get the triangle right, but that's like such a common simple image that, okay, it got that one, but it really can't generate these kind of more elaborate, like 3D, kind of MC Escher-esque type thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, let's go to the failure room quickly. The failure room is full of SAM 3D. This was like early days of me trying this, but I do have to say as a critique to some of this stuff, it doesn't do well when you need accuracy. Okay, so you've got this molecule thing out there. I did that by accident. I left it out there because I couldn't get it back. I know how to now, but one thing it did is it just flattened everything. So that structure was kind of like, and probably you just have to try different images, but it's flat. And it doesn't have any depth as a molecular structure might. So like that didn't work. If you turn around and let's look, I don't know. I don't feel that this astronaut came out very well. He's kind of missing feet and stuff. I struggled forever to try to make like a DNA helix model. I couldn't get. Now I'm sure that Meshi could do it. You know, these tools I got into later, and I didn't have time to keep generating things because I only have so many tokens. But this was Sam 3D just blowing it, right?
I think this one is kind of okay. I mean, you're
It's just
missing
missing
some.
all the strands
Yeah,
in the middle. It's like
yeah, but like,
one per.
yeah, but at least like this is kind of hard to
It
generate.
did
I
the
feel like,
spiral.
yeah, the spirals works well, and then you need
Which is
the.
interesting. If you go to this wheel next to it, I have not yet found. I know there's one out there, but man, Mobius strips right there. It's a simple thing. I mean, I can make one with a piece of paper right now, but a few different programs I made just could not make sense of Mobius strips, and I tried various different like images as well. And then the dreidels, I just wanted to point out like anything that has characters on it, you have to be careful. It's not going to usually render those excellent. It just repeated the same character and it didn't quite get them right. You see that one's got a couple extra flourishes on it, but it tried, right? But it's just something to be aware of, like anytime there's like kind of character recognition stuff. And then the Lana Del Rey, I mean, we saw that face earlier in I think it was Trippo and how nice it was. But I mean, her face is just Play-Doh. I mean, the lips, it's not. When you look at how clear the image is up there, which is an AI image of Lana Del Rey, it's just and look how dark it is. Like this is a good example of just how dark those come
Yeah.
out. Whereas if you look at those amphoras, those vases, those are made with Lumen, they're a little brighter. They're not so dark. So those have a kind of a more, you know, accurate color. Can we go look at what's the captain looking at? Let me go look at one more thing out the window here. Then I think, yeah. So we put a pirate ship out there. Oh yeah, we saw that. Cool. Okay, I think we're ready. Oh, I did want to point out. Oh, you know what? That's so cool. Okay, they're gone. Well, you know, Morgan was here with us. I showed this to Morgan, and maybe it's just because I've re-entered the space, but originally when we put these people up on the rooftop, their shadows were on the bottom of the ceiling and their shadows were on the floor. And it was just this weird effect. But now I realize that may have just been kind of a glitch when you're building it. But so many weird things happen when you're manipulating 3D objects and 3D spaces. Like it is a glitch heavy world. A lot of weird stuff happens. Okay, where are we at here? 11? We have about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we have time for questions, and we can also finish a bit earlier.
We could do questions, although I do have another kind of segment. I do want to show, I'm still sharing screen. Let me get another window up. It's like, which one is it? It must be this one. Yeah. Okay, so this next segment is kind of like, where are we headed? And also just to throw out some other tools, you might write this one down. I could not get this to work, but I've heard rave reviews about this tool. Again, this could be a situation like Luma where they got bought out or it's being changed to another tool, but nothing matches here. So this says text to 3D. Good luck finding text to 3D. This is only image. It doesn't work. It rotates forever. I can't get it to render. You might have more luck on a PC. The two tests we did were with a Mac. But if I click on one of these images, actually, let's do it down here. This has really great detail too. I thought this looked really cool. And my daughter was really into this one. She thought it was so cute.
Oh yeah, it's good.
It does a really good job, but I just couldn't get this one to work. So, you know, throw it on your list. Try it out, see if you can get it to work. I had a lot of trouble with it. But where are we headed? Well, there are so many tools. I mean, it's overload. Every day there's a new tool. I'll play this video. I don't know that I have sound. Let me share again and turn on sound.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Do it that way. So just pointing out like that, you know, this stuff is so rapidly developing and getting better and better. I was really impressed with this. Which one? Not that one. Like the glass on this that it's able to do, this like transparency. I think that's really neat. So another issue is a lot of these tools, like this is a GitHub repository. Like, you go to their GitHub and you got to read the README and you have to know how to like implement this code onto your machine and run it, which I'm a novice. I'm not so good at that. You can see here's the link to get the GitHub code. These I don't want to look at that one. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of that one. This is really impressive. So we haven't looked much at this, but this is a sketch to 3D tool. And what you do is notice the prompt. It says render the drawing as an HD photorealistic render of a high-end physical product design. And then you just draw like literally, stick drawings. And based on the prompt, whatever you've told it to mold that into or to render that as, it just starts rendering it in real time as you draw, right? So, I mean, this has massive implications, I think, just how quick this is. Quite impressive. You can see more examples of this kind of in real time. And people just messing around right now. I mean, turn the car into, buried with gummies, with coins. But the thing about it is it's not like do this, here's an asset, push a button, wait for it to render. This is just rendering in real time as you type and as you manipulate the object or as you move on camera, for example, here, right? So you're doing both at once. It's like you've got the prompt and you've got the imagery and it's doing it all in real time. Like that's where we're headed, right? So in a way, this just makes everything I just showed you kind of obsolete, right? So quite impressive. This is going a little bit different direction, but again, the idea that all these tools are kind of in development. So this is called Turntable. And here's a little sample of this. And notice this is a vector graphic and it's quite flat, but it understands the three-dimensionality, right? So 2 legs become 4, or at least we will see that. I think here it had 4 to begin with, but if it had 2, like if the other legs were hidden behind the legs, it understands and it makes 4 legs. So here's some more examples of this tool, this turntable tool, and what it can do. We'll just, I didn't do the sound, but. See, there's a good example of the like 2 legs become 4, right? And then different angles, right? It's not just spinning it. Let's see a couple others. Scoot ahead here.
Wow.
So I am not any kind of I'm not any kind of like animator or anything, but Morgan, if you're still here, can you talk to us just a bit about what this changes, this idea that you can take a 2-dimensional image like this and suddenly you can click on an object and start rotating it and get 3-dimensionality to it, like why that's kind of so big?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest benefit is going to be obviously the time investment in to create the original structure, the original vector drawing. It can be pretty labor intensive. And then to think about even just like from a standpoint of making a still image for, let's say, a social media post that's advertising some sort of product or something like that, and then having the client ask you, can we just see a slightly different angle of this? Can we see, maybe it's a laptop, so can we see the whole keyboard or something like that? You basically have to start from scratch and recreate the entire drawing. And so to be able to have this assistant allow you to turn it and be able to have that other view. There's also, as George was mentioning, for animation purposes, when you're trying to get something to move, like let's say to do a walk cycle or something like that, you're having to do most of the frames, the key frames of those animations, and then you're having to rely on technology to do the in between. This gives you the option to potentially do everything, be able to save out all of those different views, load that in, and have the most possible control of the animation yourself rather than relying on the animation technology. Like, for instance, forever we used Flash in conjunction with Illustrator to do those short clips and things like that. There's other products now that are even better, but yeah, this is only in beta right now, so you have to be able to download Illustrator beta to be able to use this turntable feature, but it is being highly advertised by Adobe, and it's kind of their next big thing. I believe will probably go out for everyone within, I'd say, the next 6 months.
Nice.
Uh,
Okay.
I also, because it really reminds me, remember the demo that we have been doing in VR? If you go to casting there for 1 second, I can show it because it's also real time. So the incognito window, if you still have that open, I was able to. So this is a demo that we have been showing lately here at the lab, and it's, I mean, let me see.
Wait.
Oh, incognito window?
Yeah, I think I still have it. Is that, no, I must be casting.
Yeah, that one.
Say.
Yeah, so you will see I'm in VR and I'm seeing George here and our meeting setup in front of us. And I'm able on real time to switch the environment and also the way George look and this style inside VR, where it's pretty amazing. Like you can see, like now we're doing a Studio Ghibli style, and yeah, I just wanted to show you quickly because the fact that we can do it inside VR is also quite cool, I think. Anyway, yeah, another short demo on all the options we have with AI.
Yeah. Okay. So now, but then guess who comes along? Hold on. Let's get rid of some of these and get my window. I think it's that one. No, 1 second. Too many windows. Oh, it's that one. Sorry, I guess this one's on some stock thing. I'm like, what is it? Oh, because the video switched. Okay, we can just get rid of that. All right. What? Well, God, I could just keep going. There's just so much here. What this one? This is kind of interesting. It's like this is a whole thing people are doing. They're making like classical paintings come to life. And so they're creating like 3D objects and then they animate it. And I don't know, it seems like this is a huge trend. People are super into it. See here, it's going to start moving, I think. Yeah, see, they like knock it down or whatever. But this lab, they're doing all this stuff with like reconstructing these physical spaces and scenes. I can imagine this has some application for interior design or even real estate and things like that. But what I want to do now and leave some time for questions, I'm going to go to my bookmarks and I just want you to look at what's going on with this genie stuff. I mean, so here, right? So literally the prompt was latitude, longitude coordinates, the date.
That's crazy.
And Genie built this.
Wow.
So someone put the coordinates of, I guess, where Jesus Christ
Crucifixion.
was put on the cross, and they just gave it the coordinates and a time.
Scary.
And it created this
Oh my
scene as
God.
like a kind of like a time travel piece, right?
Wow.
So apparently, and this is like an open world too, by the way. Like if you modified the prompt, you could be like, okay, like put my character in there. I want to walk over to the castle, and it would do that. Like you could walk over there, and it would keep generating these worlds. I'll show you what I mean here. Oh, that's super funny for my daughter. That's Darren. Oh, by the way, Darrenovsky just made an AI film. That's a trailer for it. Okay, so yeah, this one. So you saw, let's go back. So they show the prompt here. So a photorealistic alpine meadow with wildflowers, a Shibu Inu centered, angled, blah, 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 walking through. I mean, it was like a 1 or 2 line prompt, create world. And it just creates this immersive world. And when I say immersive, like there are videos of people that created like a city, and there's interactions. Like you can walk up to a car and open the door and like perhaps get in if you prompted it to allow that. And So this just came out. There's all these great examples of what people are doing with it. Someone made a video game of being a discarded cigarette pack on the ground in an urban environment, and the cigarette pack like slides around and has to jump over other obstacles. I mean, it just goes like on and on.
And this just came out
Yeah,
yesterday.
this just came out yesterday. So this prompt was something like, put me in Hollywood Boulevard. Okay, you can see some of the stars are a little wonky. You see that AI slop on the ground, but the overall image is pretty impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like we're looking at, GTA 6 or something. And people are reporting that without prompting, the system will create and create interactions that it didn't signal that it has. So for example, it might give you a list of controls, but it didn't list anything for the shift button. And then you press shift and your character squats or does some other thing. One guy built a bridge and then he jumped off it and the system respawned him somewhere else in the world, but he never told it to do that. Like it just followed like other kind of, probably from video games. I mean, it
Mechanic,
seems
yeah.
like it was probably trained on like modern video games like GTA and things like that. So yeah, people are like, here's that one of the car door opening. So someone generated this world, they walked up to a car and they were able to open it. So pretty wild. That's the full video of that, I think. Yeah, and then this is just more of that like where you sketch and in real time it's creating 3D. So I think that's where we're headed. Or we're there, so to speak. So, all right, I want to wrap up with I had just, by the way, you have access to the modules in Canvas. And in that section, I have a more elaborate kind of final thoughts section. So you could read that if we have questions instead. It was just kind of my kind of closing piece regarding like some things I learned. And it's a, in short, my final thoughts are essentially like, oh, are they here? Have them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen very quickly. I got it. Yeah, I just opened it up and share on the link.
I have it too, but
Yeah, because I think it's important to mention that as always we have this course that is called XR Tools for
Yeah.
Teaching, and then we will have so everything that George covered here, you will find it on the Canvas course, like talks a little bit about the different tools. You can walk around, you can always go back, Gina, Meshi, Tripo, all the tools that he was exploring here. You can see it, and then if we get to the end, where are we headed? One more.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just overcoming some challenges, right? So some things you'll face. I mean, as you see, just the sheer volume of tools. There's just so much. And I think it's interesting that we had a tool just leave us while we're giving the presentation because there's constantly new tools being added, being made obsolete, changing, people buying out other companies. I mean, it is rapid. And then just all the different ways to do this, the variety of methods and workflows. Some of them are even like hacks. So that idea of like screenshotting an image that I created because it won't let me download the object, but then I take it in another program and I extract the 3D object using their technology. And then just this, pace of change, both the technology, but also like the rush to monetization, right? Like I'll be using a tool, everything's going great. And the next time I click on it, it's like, oh, you've used up all your credits, or your free trial has expired and now, you need to pay. So lots of limitations on what you can do for free, but at the same time, there's lots of stuff that you can do for free because they're trying to get users and show the kind of wow factor of this technology. And then also just the importance of purpose. Like I didn't really have a purpose yet. I didn't have an educational purpose. So I'm creating like Daft Punk helmets and, trolls and things my daughter wants. But of course, if you have a direction you're headed, then you can really plan, get your prompts right. And I did find that when I had more of an idea of what I wanted, and I started by explaining what I wanted, I had much better success getting better models. So having a clear purpose really helps, and then using AI as your leverage and telling it what your purpose is, and it will give you tips on how to do that.
Yeah. I will just add that even though you are having tons of new tools. I feel once you get familiar to a workflow, you can take that knowledge into different tools. So it's not like you have to start from zero. I feel
Yeah.
like all the experimentation that you did with Genie, even if it's not available anymore, it still like gives you good lessons that you can take
Yeah.
into the newer, even this new 3D world generation. Probably all the same concepts that you learn from the experimentation here will be valuable in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easier than you think. I mean, I waited kind of till the last minute to play around with spatial, and I literally am so kind of stupid. Like I thought I was like, oh, I got to get in the XR lab and I got to get in a headset and I got to figure out how to get these objects. And then one day I was like, wait, can I just do it from my computer? And I like opened it and I created an account. I'm like, oh,
It's
I'm in
easy.
here. I'm doing it. Oh, okay, it's right here. I can build it. And so then I was like, I had like 5 more hours of just doing that. Right. Bruce, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Maria, do you remember, it's been a few weeks ago, you created this avatar that walked through the makerspace and you had several different locations that you created in Marble
Yeah.
Labs. Could you post the link to that, please?
Yeah, for sure. So that's Arrival, and it's a new tool also that lets you have Gaussian splattings. So remember I share Marble, and let me share my screen so you have more like an image. So we talk about Marble Labs and how you can create different 3D worlds. So basically, what I did was to prompt AI to create the house from different artists. So the house of Van Gogh, the house of Dali, in with this their style. I think I did like 4 different ones, and then create 3D worlds. So yeah, let me share this on the chat and quickly walk you through them. And then I use Arrival, that is a tool that let me have Gaussian splatting. So if I go inside this, it might take a second to load. And then yeah, I also use AI to have like cool descriptions of each one of the spaces. And this is a full 3D environment. Of course, it's not as amazing as the last Google release where you can walk forever, but it's still pretty cool how you can have like the style of Dali, you have some clocks around, and then you move and you can go to Van Gogh. And then you can also have like conversations here inside Arrival. So this is similar to Spatial, but lets you have Gaussian splats. So this is why I choose this one, because these are actually Gaussian splats, and I was not able to get Gaussian splats into Spatial.
Nice.
So
So
yeah,
like alternate realities, sort of states of consciousness, walking into each of those different artistic styles, right?
yeah.
That's totally cool.
Yeah, so I think it was very cool to have George coming from I don't know how to use this and then getting into you can spend a lot of time. Like we talk about how fast it is to generate 3D objects, but yeah, it takes a second or 10 seconds to generate a 3D object, but you don't know all the interactions that you have behind that. And I realized that sometimes I spend 1 full hour adjusting the prompt and doing different tests until I have a result that I like. So it's also, yeah, there is also a lot of work behind it, but I think more than you do, more familiar you get, and you can get better results. So yeah, thank you so much, George. Does anyone has any more questions? No?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks.
Lisa.
Thank you,
Thanks to have
Lisa.
you here.
All right. Ciao. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks a lot,
I'll see you
Tucker.
guys in a minute. Hey, Bruce.